The show.
Our guest is our special guest for the Paul Altman Show, and she has agreed to appear on this podcast, basically telling the truth and telling her story of what's it like working for Michael Jackson's management company, appear in Michael Jackson's Ghost. You may have seen her in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The House Party, Young and the Restless, Kazam, and every other movie and television shows that you might heard of. So let's pay attention to our guest, Shana Mangatal. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I always had a question, and I'm a big fan of the book, and I really liked all of the book, really, Shana.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I just got one question. Well, there's certain questions, but there's one I written down some questions. This question is basically, why did you write this book, particularly about Michael? Was it that there was another way of defending him, in a way of telling the world who the real Michael Jackson was?
Yes, definitely. I've watched the press on Michael over the years, and it just kept getting worse and worse, it seemed. And the things that I read about Michael in the press, they weren't the Michael that I knew. None of the stuff that I read was the person that I recognized to be Michael. And I was like, you know what? If people knew my story, perhaps they would have a whole different point of view of who Michael was. So I went back, dug through my boxes, found all of my old diaries from those years, and I read through them, and I was like, oh my God, this is really good stuff. This is stuff people need to know. And as I was reading it, some of the stuff surprised me because, when something happens 30 years ago, you kind of forget it. But when you read it back, it's like you're reliving it all over again. And it made me feel so good to read those memories. And, most of them were really happy memories. And to me, they make Michael into the human being that he was. It makes people know that he was a human being. He wasn't wacko jacko. He was a real person with real feelings, real emotions, and I think people really needed to know that side of him. So that was one of the main reasons.
Wow. It really seemed. Well, for me, when I actually found out who you are, it's basically I was on YouTube, and what I came across was your interview promoting the book, and you were discussing with a journalist from Australia, and you said one of those things, and I was really intrigued, so I went and got the book, and actually finding out certain things, and one of the things was that and this is my question too, is that I said, well, it's random. My questions are random. So, yeah. So, basically, you were in the short film Ghost with Michael, and the question was that, what I didn't know was that it was originally had a different title by the name of What Is It Scary?
Is this scary? Yes.
So I want to know, because you were cast twice, and basically just tell me how it came about. Like, I was just wondering.
Oh, sure. In 1993, that was when we did the first one. It was called Is This Scary? Stephen King wrote it. We had a great director named Mick Garris, and it was going to be the title song or theme song for the movie Addams Family Values, which is the sequel to Addams Family. So it was going to be a huge thing. Paramount Pictures put millions and millions of dollars into this short film. And we had an actor playing the mayor at that time. We had, different kids, a whole different cast, and it was wonderful. But the weird thing is that the premise of the short film was about, us townspeople storming up to Michael's home and telling him to get out of our normal town because he was scaring our children. We were calling him weirdo and freak and all this stuff. And the strange thing is that those allegations against him hadn't even happened yet. So we were in the middle of filming that when the allegations from Jordy Chandler happened. And it was really surreal because that was exactly what we were filming, but we were acting. But at the same time, it was happening in real life. So that's why we never finished that one, because right in the middle of filming, Michael found out about these terrible allegations against him, and he just became so sick and distraught and sad, and he was just not able to finish. And he went on tour after that, on the Dangerous tour. So we really never finished that short film. And then, he went on the Dangerous tour, got back, all of that, put all of that Jordy Chandler stuff behind him. And then fast forward 3 years later, he calls me one day at work. I was working for his manager still, Sandy Gallen. And he called and he said, "Remember that short film we did back in 1993, Is This Scary?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, we're going to redo it, and I'm recasting the whole thing, but I'd like for you to come back and do this with me, and you're the only person that I'm asking to come back." So I was like, "Okay, sure, yeah, I'd love to." And I asked him why the kids weren't coming back, and he said because they had grown up, so he couldn't use those same kids anymore. So, yeah, he recast the whole thing, and he told me the casting people would be calling me. And a few hours later, the casting people called me and said, "Michael told us to call you, and he wants you to be in this film." So I was like, great. So the next week, we were on set filming Ghosts, and it was wonderful. We filmed it for a month. We were there for, over 12 hours a day, every day, and we had a lot of fun. And Ghosts is like his baby. It's his masterpiece. It's the message that he really wanted to get out to the world, because it really tells a story of people judging him and saying that he's a weirdo, he's a freak, and you're scaring our children. But that's because they don't know him. Once you meet Michael and you know him as a person, as a human being, as I said before, you're not going to have those thoughts about him. And that's really what Ghost is about. Don't prejudge someone until you get to know them. Sometimes things are a little bit more magical than you thought they were. And being around Michael, you really do start to believe in magic in real life, because he was a magical person. He was a special human being. And it's not just in the movies. That's how he really was in real life. So I'm glad the Ghost really brought that out.
Right. And I liked how you said it, because you said it best. And for me, because I'm autistic, and I think we have talked about it before on Facebook. Basically, how the world, meaning that when the allegations came out, they were making him look like he was the bad guy, and I kind of felt a certain way, because me being autistic, I was getting antagonized, and it made it worse for me, because I've always been a Michael fan,
right?
And I've been targeted even more, so that's what made it really was even more difficult. And I'm not blaming Michael for it, no way. But you kind of feel for him, like you know exactly what it feels like to be picked on.
Right, you understand, and that's probably what drew you to him, because you felt that you could relate to what he was going through.
Yeah, and basically, and I had TJ on the show. He even said the same thing. Basically, all he has done is kindness. What he done is kindness.
Right.
And my other question, we'll go to my question, which is you had mentioned in this interview that you had worked for Michael's management company. Was it Sandy Gallen?
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And how did you get a chance to work for him, and how did you got the job, and what was it like working for them?
Oh, I got lucky. I back in those days, this was 1991. You had to, look through. I looked through. There was not a tabloid, but a daily newspaper called The Hollywood Reporter. It still exists, and in the back it had job openings. And so every day I would look through there to see what job openings they had. And I saw one that said receptionist needed for a music management company. And I just sent my resume in. And back then you had to mail it in. We didn't have the internet or computers or anything like that. So you had to physically mail in your resume and just hope that someone sees it. And to my surprise, they called and brought me in for an interview. I interviewed and I got the job. And that's how I got it. It was really luck. Really, I don't know. I think back on that, and I always wonder, wow, what if I didn't go to the newsstand that day to, read the Hollywood Reporter? What if I didn't see that job ad? It's all things. Life can be so random, and just one thing that you do can change your whole life, and that changed my life. And I'm so glad that I sent in my resume. But yeah, it was just luck, and so I was there. I was at the front desk for this really hip and happening music management company. They were the management company of the 90s. They not only had Michael, but they had Dolly Parton, Neil Diamond, the Pointer Sisters, Whoopi Goldberg, Paula Abdul, everybody. So it was a dream come true to work somewhere like this, because I had just moved to Los Angeles about a year before from the Washington, D.C. area. So this was a dream job for me. And then I found out Michael Jackson was their biggest client, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I was like, oh my God, So I had been a huge fan growing up. And so I just never dreamed that I would be put into this position where I have to talk to Michael every day. And at first when I got the job, I was thinking, I'm sure Michael is never going to call in himself. He's probably always going to have his assistant call, so I'll probably never meet him. All of that was going through my mind. But then on my first day, Michael calls himself. And then, I realized he was calling every day, 3 or 4 times a day, and it was always him calling. So that was it was like a dream, and I'm so blessed to have gotten that job.
Wow. And you actually got me with Dolly Parton. Because my mom and my grandmother are big fans.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely.
She was wonderful. She and Michael were our nicest clients. I always found that the bigger the client, the nicer they are. And Dolly was just a sweetheart. She'd call and crack jokes with me, and she actually has an autobiography, and I'm thanked in the back of it. If you ever see her autobiography, look all the way in the back in thank yous, and I'm in there. And Sandy Gallen, my boss, he knew all of the huge celebrities of that time, and one of his best friends was Elizabeth Taylor, and that was also one of Michael's best friends. So not only was Michael calling all day, but Elizabeth Taylor was calling every day, all day. So I got to chat with her, and she was also super nice, always laughing and joking. I loved Elizabeth. So yeah, it was really a dream to be around all of these icons every day.
Right. And basically, that's actually a good story. You should have been a storyteller for all of that, Yes, and but let me ask you this question, because not only you worked for Sandy Gallen, well, you also and sometimes actress. Am I correct?
Yes, that's true. I actually moved out to LA to be. I started off wanting to be a singer. I drove across the country with one of my friends. She and I were a singing duo, and we wrote and recorded our demo like as we were driving across the country. So we wrote songs and we recorded them ourselves, and we were hoping to get a record deal. But then when we landed in LA, like maybe the next week, we both got a part in this movie called House Party, which turned out to be a classic movie. So our first couple of months in LA was filming a movie, which was another thing that was just unexpected, but it was a wonderful experience. And so then I got the acting bug. I was always an actress. I studied acting in school, but so I was pursuing singing and acting, and I got some roles in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I was a regular student / extra on A Different World for 2 seasons. I did a few, mainly sitcoms. I did a movie with John Travolta called Shout, where I was actually like a dancer, and I was in the movie Hairspray. So yeah, I did a few things, small roles, but it prepared me to be in Ghosts with Michael. And over the course of my friendship with Michael, he knew that I wanted to be an actress. So that's one of the reasons why he chose me to do Ghosts with him. And when we were on the set, all we talked about in terms of career was acting, because that was his dream too. You know, he wanted to be an actor more than anything, and we would talk about acting a lot. So we bonded because of that.
Wow. That's something. And I believe that I also saw you on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Will Smith and Alfonso.
Alfonso.
Yeah. Pronouncing names hard. Yes, that's one of, and I saw you on the show. And
oh yeah, that was a great experience because Will Smith.
Yeah, for me, the first time I didn't even know who you were, so I was just like.
Really? Oh, you saw me and didn't know who I was. That's funny.
Yeah. Then I watched it again, and then I was like, I know who she is now. That's also my second way of knowing who you are.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, that was fun. Will Smith was really nice to work with.
Right. And like I said to TJ, you know, I really hate to bring up this part of it, but because my show, you know, basically allows doesn't necessarily, but I also had to give another side to certain stories that were left out, certain claims that were being made, and one of that was last year when let me see. Okay, right here. It says, last year the world has brought to the attention of this is what I'm calling this now, a mockumentary called Ellen. And what was your initial reaction to it? And when you heard it was the same people who have tried to sue Michael's estate. Were you as shocked as everybody else?
Oh, Leaving Neverland?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was definitely shocked. Because I met Wade Robson back in those the early 90s. I remember I went to the premiere of not Will You Be There, but Free Willy. And Michael had the song Will You Be There in that movie. And I remember seeing Wade and his mom there. I just remember I always got a bad feeling from his mom. She didn't do anything to me specifically, but I just felt like she was just loving the attention and being, Michael's friend. And Michael treated them like kings and queens, his whole family. And he gave Wade a record deal and really gave him his whole career as a choreographer because Michael mentored him as a dancer and set him up with a lot of different connections. So to me, if someone does all that for you, you don't turn around after they pass away and try to get millions and millions of more dollars out of their estate. That's just not right. That's ungrateful. It's just not something you do because Michael helped him so much And I just don't know how he can look himself in the mirror and think that this is a good thing to do when he's already gotten so much from Michael. And so that was surprising. I never thought Wade or James Safechuck, I should say, would go against Michael, because I do remember how well Michael treated both of them. So it was really sad to see that happening. And all of last year, I guess we were dealing with that in 2019. So it kind of made that whole year just sad, and there was just so much in the press, and having to see that every day. It was not easy for those of us who love and knew Michael, and for his fans, it hasn't been easy. I know that. So yeah, it was quite a shock.
And my last question that I have, in which it is a good book, but are you a writer enthusiast that likes to write?
Not really. I wasn't a writer at all prior to this book, but I guess I sort of was, because I always wrote in my diaries. So, luckily I was passionate about writing in my diaries and my journals ever since I was a teenager. And that's how my book came about, because I had all of it. Whenever something amazing happened to me, I would write it in my diary. Lots of details. And that's basically what I wrote my book from, my diaries. So without those diaries, I don't think I would have a book, because no, I'm not a writer. I'm not the type of person who can just like sit down and start writing something out of my head, and I also don't have that great of a memory. So if I don't write it down, I may not remember it. So I wasn't a writer prior to writing this book, and I did not think I could write an entire book by myself. And I really surprised myself that I was able to write this book. It's like, oh my God, where did this come from? Because I'm not a writer. But that
Right.
shows me that it was meant to be. It was like from a higher power, It's like this book needed to be written so that people could know who the real Michael was, and so that I could share my story as well, because I do think it's inspiring, because I came from Washington, D.C., I didn't know anyone when I moved out here to L.A., and I just, all these amazing things happened to me. My dreams came true, and so it's not only a book about Michael, but it's about me and how I made my dreams come true, and I hope to inspire young people by telling my story, and hopefully they can do what I did, which is believed in myself and just went after everything that I had dreamed of. And that's what you have to do. You have to focus and just go after it, go for it. Don't be afraid. And so yeah, that's how my writing came about. And now I would like to write another book, but it has to be like the last one. It has to be organic. I can't force it. So I'm figuring out what topic I want to write about, and then hopefully I can start again.
Okay, I just like to.
Okay, well, it was really wonderful talking to you.
You too, and we should keep in contact from sometime.
Yeah, you know where I am. Make sure you stay in contact with me.
Sure, no problem.
All right, nice talking to you, Paul.
Nice talking to you too, Shana.
Okay, have a great day.
I want to thank our special guest, Shana Mangatal, for stopping by. And this is the Paul Altman Show. Please tune in for more Michael Jackson related episodes or entertainment news. So please stay tuned for more.